If you're liking the content that we're putting out, and I assume because you're here that you do, could you please subscribe and become part of the Raging Moderates YouTube community? We're having a great time doing this, learning a lot, growing as people, all the things. Please subscribe. Welcome to Raging Moderates. I'm Jessica Tarlov, and today I'm joined by journalist, YouTuber, and host of the Brad vs. Everyone podcast, Brad Polumbo. Thanks for being here, Brad.
Hey, thanks for having me.
It is my pleasure. We're just a few hours away from a potential government shutdown, but I first wanted to talk about a news story that dropped today. Trump unveiled this new TrumpRx website where Americans can buy medications at discounted rates, along with a deal that he struck with Pfizer. It's part of his push to align U.S. drug pricing with what people pay overseas, revive his most favored nation policy, which he's been talking about since his first term, and cut out the middleman for cash-paying patients. What did you make of the announcement, and do you think it's a real thing?
Well, I think it's probably a real thing. The first impression I had of the announcement was kind of the glitz and glam is so Trumpian. The fact that an official government website will be named after Trump is kind of diabolical. like normally it would be, like Access Health or some sort of serious name. He's like, no, we're just going to call it TrumpRx. It almost sounds like he wants to be Mark Cuban, but through the federal government. Of course, I mean, the flip side to this is that prescription drug costs in America are obscenely high. There's an extensive laundry list of reasons for that. And if it's successful in that, then I would certainly give Trump credit for that. I remain pretty skeptical, though, because anytime you have this kind of essentially collusion between big, powerful companies and the federal government, it often ends up working out in the favor of the companies even more so. The problem with the most favored nation is that they can also meet those requirements by raising prices in other countries to meet that requirement and so on.
And Trump would just say, I don't care.
I guess. But then my point is that Americans aren't really better off under that scenario. And it is true that we essentially subsidize global pharmaceutical development. The flip side of that is that we lead the world for new inventions and pharmaceutical development and innovation. So I don't know. It's going to be peak Trump, I guess. Wrecking ball branded. But I'd rather have him do this than sell more crypto from the Oval Office.
Well, he's going to do both, just in case you hadn't been noticing the speed at which he does all of the grift. I agree with you. I mean, the glitz of it. And I actually went on Mark Cuban's Cost Drugs Plus site just to see how he's branded it. And his site says, no middlemen, no price games, huge drug savings. And all of those words and phrases are in Trump's announcement about it. So he definitely was like, who's a billionaire? Who doesn't like me? Who's doing a thing that I'm interested in? Let me do the Liberace version of this. There are questions of legality, whether he can kind of unilaterally do something like this. And I do want to make sure that we connect it back to essentially his threat from July. He went after the CEOs of these pharmaceutical companies, and he said, basically, your tariff life is going to be a living hell unless you do something about drug prices. And Pfizer was the first one to bend the knee. It's
strange, though. Isn't it kind of strange, Jessica? Because the dichotomy of the Trump administration here is, on one hand, we have the crunchy RFKs who are like, big pharma is the worst and most evil thing ever. And on the other hand, you have Trump like linking arms with Pfizer for this new project. There's a inconsistency or incoherence to some of it. It's like sometimes they're villains, sometimes they're our friends. I don't know. I worry. I'm curious how this will play out with kind of the MAGA diehard or MAHA diehards, the Make America Healthy Again, like true believers. Will they maybe revolt against this? They despise Pfizer. I don't.
Yeah.
I mean, every company is flawed, but I think they've produced a lot of things that have helped a lot of people. But I will be curious to see how this plays out among that section of the Trump base, because it's kind of inconsistent with their whole shtick.
Yeah, I mean, kind of watching, I guess, the last few weeks play out, the MAHA movement is having a bit of an identity crisis because they went hard on vaccines. Then Trump even came out and it was a bridge too far for him. And he said, no, there are a lot of vaccines that are really good. And I'm going to switch gears and focus on Tylenol. And I've always thought that RFK Jr. had a place in the conversation, a bipartisan place, but it probably was at USDA and not at HHS. And I think that there is an important switch that Trump has been softly trying to make about Operation Warp Speed, which is, a core component of this relationship with Pfizer, because that is one of the greatest accomplishments of his first administration. And he should be leaning into that more. And so when I saw that Pfizer was the first company out there to say, yes, we're going to do this, we're going to give you most favored nations pricing, I'm going to invest $70 billion in the American economy, it seemed like the dominoes were falling more in that direction than RFK Jr. and I are best buddies forever. I don't think it necessarily means he's going to be fired or something, but that was kind of my read on it.
Yeah, no, and it's funny you mention Operation Warp Speed because that kind of embodies the dichotomy. You have people inside the Trump orbit that think it was a huge success. Personally, I'm not part of the Trump orbit, but I think it was. I know, my grandmother-in-law took multiple boosters and she was at high risk, and I'm really glad there was something available to protect her. Obviously, we could have a whole conversation about whether it was oversold or whether mandates were justified, lots of other stuff. But then there's part of the Trump coalition that thinks Operation Warp Speed was a crime against humanity.
Yeah.
And I don't agree with them, but they're there and they're very influential in the RFK Maha circles. So again, it's like there must be some interesting conversations going on behind the scenes when some of these Trump statements go out in other departments, because they are not all on the same page about some of this stuff.
No, the HHS group chat must be one of some more insane.
Did you see the agriculture secretary text?
Oh my God, her text to Bessent.
Yes, I love that.
Yeah, where she was like, FYI, we got fucked, which anyone could have seen coming a mile away, that you're going to bail out Argentina and then they're going to go make their own soybean deal. But it also made me feel really old because even with my glasses, which I think are the right prescription, I could barely read it. Like I was zooming in so hard on the text. You're younger than me, so you don't know about it. I want to make sure I get your take on the impending, perhaps, shutdown. I think it's going to happen. I just don't know how long it'll last. Where are you on the spending bill?
Well, to me, the shutdown saga, I feel gaslit because you and I have both, you've been doing this longer than me, but we've both been doing this long enough to remember the last shutdown and the shutdown before that. Mm-hmm. And they all just like switch on a dime. So J.D. Vance is a great example of this, the vice president. He's saying now, like, you shouldn't use a budget bill to extract policy concessions. Like a year ago under Biden, he was cheering Republican attempts to do exactly that. But the flip side is also true for many of the Democratic leaders. They were saying like government shutdowns aren't acceptable. They hurt lots of people. We shouldn't be using them to push through policy agendas. And now they're demanding parts of the one big beautiful bill be repealed to pass a budget. So it all just reminds me of the dysfunction of Washington. We are not supposed to have permanent continuing resolutions. They're actually supposed to pass budget bills that fund each department at a time, but instead they do this bizarre mixture of omnibus bills and continuing resolutions where they just kick the can down the road. It's funny. So many Republicans, and I think they have a point, say that under Biden, said CRs, continuing resolutions, are a disgrace because they just kick the can down, looming financial recklessness. And now they're all just going to line up and they want to pass the continuing resolution because their team's in power. So they don't want to deal with it. Democrats, many of them told us, oh no, passing a CR is what we have to do. It's responsible. We'll keep the lights on. Now they're about to block. They all kind of shamelessly switch on a dime and pretend that we're not old enough to remember what they said literally like a year ago. It feels gaslighty to me.
Yeah. And it's all on tape, which makes this pretty hard to refute. But the thing that I feel like is just so undercovered in all of it is like, this is only for 7 weeks anyway. Like, we're not even talking about a good 6 months, which is what we got from the March resolution. And I'm certainly, as a Democrat, interested to see if any of the Senate Dems fold beyond Fetterman. Because remember last time, the whole thing was, no, we're lockstep. And then was it 10 of them voted to keep the government open? But I do think that there's much more information now about what this administration is and how they're going to operate that we didn't necessarily have at the beginning of the Trump term. But I think my bet right now would be government shuts down for a very small amount of time. then we have some small resolution and we do this again. Maybe you and I literally do
Yeah.
this again in 7 weeks.
Good money is on no serious long-term solutions being reached anytime soon.
Ever in American history. On that uplifting note, Brad, it was great to have you. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.